May 17, 1945. A field of mud and wire near Andernach, Germany. The rain had stopped just after dawn, but the sky remains a bruised, indifferent gray. For the thousands of women held in this makeshift enclosure, one of the notorious Rheinwiesenlager, the world has shrunk to the horizon of barbed wire and the cold, sucking grip of the Rhineland mud. You can smell the camp before you see it, a damp, close odor of earth, unwashed bodies, and despair. Anneliese Schmidt, formerly a Nachrichtenhelferin, a signals auxiliary with the Luftwaffe, pulls the thin wool of her captured greatcoat tighter. It is 2 sizes too large, its feldgrau fabric stained with dirt and the memory of its previous owner. At 21, she has learned to make herself small, to conserve every calorie of warmth, every flicker of hope. The morning routine is a ritual of dehumanization. A shrill whistle cuts through the low murmur of the camp, signaling the first roll call. The women shuffle from their crude dugouts, holes scraped into the earth with mess tins and bare hands, their only shelter from the elements. They line up in ragged columns, their faces pale and gaunt, a sea of hollow eyes staring at nothing. The American Guards, GIs from the 106th Infantry Division, watch from the perimeter. They are boys, mostly, their faces hardened by a war that is officially over but which continues here in this quiet, grinding misery. They count the prisoners with a practiced, detached efficiency. There is no conversation, only the squelch of boots in mud and the curt commands in a language most of the women barely understand. Anneliese stands beside Clara, a former flak battery commander in her late 30s whose face has been set in a permanent mask of cynical defiance. Clara had been a true believer. Now, her belief has curdled into a hard, protective shell. "Look at them," Clara mutters, her voice a low rasp. "They count us like cattle. Soon they will check our teeth." Anneliese says nothing. Words are an expense, and she has little to spare. Her stomach is a tight, aching knot. Breakfast, when it comes, will be the same as yesterday, a cup of lukewarm, bitter ersatz coffee and a slice of dense, dark bread so hard it has to be soaked in the foul liquid to be chewed. Hunger is a constant companion, a dull throb that has replaced all other feelings. It has erased memory, ambition, even fear. There is only the now, and the gnawing emptiness. After the count, the day stretches into a formless expanse of waiting. Some women huddle together, whispering stories of home, of families now lost or scattered across a shattered nation. Others sit alone, staring into the middle distance, their minds seemingly vacant. A rumor had swept through the camp last week, a cruel spark of hope, that the women would be released soon. But the days passed, and the wire remained. The hope festered, turning into a quiet resentment. They were the leftovers of the war, the administrative problem no one knew how to solve. They had served the Reich, directing fighters, guiding anti-aircraft guns, transmitting commands. They were not front-line soldiers, but they wore the uniform. And now they paid the price. Around midday, the familiar rumble of a truck engine grows louder. But this is not the usual water truck or ration delivery. A GMC-CCKW, its canvas top flapping in the breeze, lurches to a halt near the camp's administrative tent. Several GIs jump from the back. They are laughing, their voices carrying easily across the silent compound. They begin unloading equipment, not crates of bread or sacks of potatoes, but strange metal grills on spindly legs. They carry bags of charcoal, large cardboard boxes, and long metal tongs. The women watch, a ripple of curiosity passing through their huddled groups. What is this? A new delo-using procedure? A construction project? Clara squints, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. They are celebrating something, she says, her tone laced with venom. Celebrating our humiliation. Anneliese watches as one of the Americans strikes a match. A curl of smoke rises, and with it, a scent begins to drift across the mud. It is a ghost of a smell, a fragrance from another lifetime, the smell of cooking meat. The scent drifts over the wire like an invading force. It is not the familiar, hearty smell of German bratwurst sizzling in pork fat, nor the thin, watery aroma of the cabbage and turnip soup that constitutes their evening meal. This is different. It is a smoky, savory fragrance, tinged with a sweetness that is both enticing and deeply alien. The women begin to stir from their lethargy. Heads lift. Noses twitch, testing the air. Whispers break out, skittering through the compound like dry leaves. Is it for the guards? It must be. A Sunday meal, perhaps. A taste of home for the victors. The sight of the American soldiers laughing, casually tending to the fires, only deepens the chasm between their world and this one. The GIs move with an easy confidence, an abundance of energy fueled by food the prisoners can only dream of. Anneliese finds herself standing, drawn by the smell as if pulled by an invisible string. Her stomach, which had been a dull ache, now twists into a sharp, painful cramp. Saliva floods her mouth, a humiliating, involuntary response. Beside her, Lottie, a 17-year-old who had been a Luftwaffe helper for less than 6 months before being captured, begins to weep silently. "I can't bear it," she whispers, her voice choked. "It is a torture." Clara places a rough hand on her shoulder. "Be quiet, child. It is a trick. A psychological game. They want to see us beg. Do not give them the satisfaction." But even as she speaks, Clara's own eyes are fixed on the source of the smell, her nostrils flared. Her stoicism is a fortress, but the aroma is a siege engine, chipping away at the walls, one fragrant particle at a time. You are there, in the mud, feeling the phantom pains of starvation. You watch the GIs. One of them, a young corporal with freckles and reddish hair, uses tongs to place rows of long, thin sausages on the grill. They are not the pale, plump Weisswurst of Bavaria or the coarse, spiced Thüringer of home. These are a strange, uniform pinkish red, like nothing they have ever seen. As they heat, they begin to sizzle, releasing more of that tantalizing smoke. Another soldier is slicing open soft, white bread rolls, buns so pale and fluffy they look more like cake than proper broad. The sheer wastefulness is staggering. Good flour, good meat, cooked in the open air for no apparent reason. It is a display of wealth so profound, so careless, that it feels like an act of aggression. It confirms everything the propaganda had said about America, a land of decadent, unnatural excess. Then, the impossible happens. A sergeant with a thick neck and a booming voice walks to the edge of the women's section. He confers with one of the female camp leaders, a stern, older woman who had been a high-ranking officer in the Bund Deutsche Armada. A new order is issued, passed down the lines. Aufstellen. In eine Reihe. Line up. In a single file. Confusion turns to disbelief, then to a frantic, terrified hope. Is it possible? Is this food for them? Clara grips Anneliese's arm, her knuckles white. "Don't," she hisses. "It is poison. They mean to kill us off and say we died of disease." The fear is real, palpable. They have heard stories of reprisal killings, of guards turning on prisoners. But the hunger is stronger. It is a primal force, overriding reason, overriding fear. Slowly, hesitantly, a line begins to form. Anneliese finds herself pushed forward, her legs moving without her consent. The line shuffles forward, a slow, silent procession of ghosts. At the head of the line stands the freckle-faced corporal. His name is Miller. He is 19 years old, from Ohio, and he is profoundly tired of this war. He holds a paper plate. On it rests one of the soft white buns, and nestled inside is one of the reddish sausages. It looks small, almost pathetic, yet in this context, it is a feast. The first woman in line, a trembling grandmotherly figure, reaches the front. Corporal Miller holds the plate out to her. He says a word she does not understand, hot dog. She just stares, her eyes wide with a terror that is older and deeper than hunger. She does not move. She does not take it. The entire camp seems to be holding its breath. The silence in the compound is absolute, broken only by the hiss and pop of the charcoal grills. Every eye is on the old woman at the front of the line, her body frozen in a posture of profound uncertainty. She is staring at the object on the paper plate as if it were an unexploded bomb. Corporal Miller, a farm boy who enlisted the day he turned 18, shifts his weight. He is not a cruel man. He is simply following orders from a captain who thought this might be a decent thing to do. He offers the plate again, with a slight, encouraging nod. "It's okay," he says, his voice gentle. "Food. Essen." The German word comes out mangled, but the meaning is clear. The woman flinches as if struck. Behind her, a ripple of fear passes through the line. They are being forced. An American sergeant, impatient with the delay, steps forward and barks an order. The camp leader translates, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. "You will take what is offered. You will move on." The old woman's hand, gnarled and trembling, slowly reaches out. Her fingers brush against the paper plate. She snatches it back, then, with a visible effort of will, takes it. She holds it in both hands, her head bowed, and shuffles away from the line, her shoulders shaking. She does not eat. She just stands there, staring at it. Now it is Clara's turn. She marches forward, her back ramrod straight, a warrior facing her executioner. She snatches the plate from Miller's hand without making eye contact, her lips pressed into a thin, white line. Her gaze sweeps over the offering with clinical contempt. This is not food. This is an insult. The bread, it is an abomination. German bread is dense, dark, and wholesome, made from rye and whole grains. This is a cloud of white air, a confection for children. It has no substance, no integrity. And the sausage? She has seen better meat fed to dogs. Its smooth, seamless skin and unnatural color speak of chemicals and factories, not of a butcher's skilled hands. It is a mockery of everything a proper wurst should be. She carries it away like a piece of evidence, her expression daring anyone to challenge her. Then it is Annaliese's turn. Her heart is pounding against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of bone. She steps up to Corporal Miller. For a fleeting second, their eyes meet. She sees no malice in his gaze, only a weary sort of detachment. He places the plate in her hands. It is warm. The heat seeps through the thin paper, a small, shocking comfort against her cold fingers. She looks down. The object seems impossibly foreign. It is the color of cartoons, of cheap advertisements. Before she can move, another soldier, a private with a wide grin, steps forward with a bottle. He makes a gesture. "Mustard?" he asks. Before she can react, he squirts a thick, zigzagging line of brilliant yellow paste over the sausage. The smell hits her instantly sharp, acrid, vinegary. It is an industrial smell, not the earthy, aromatic spice of German senf. Her stomach churns. Is this the poison? A chemical to mask the taste of tainted meat? She backs away from the line, her mind racing. Years of propaganda have built walls in her mind, and they are screaming warnings. She remembers the posters, the radio broadcasts. The Americans are a mongrel race, culturally bankrupt, their nation built on artifice and empty consumerism. Their food is synthetic, their bodies weak. This thing in her hands feels like the physical manifestation of that propaganda. It feels fake. She looks around. All down the line, women are receiving their portions. No one is eating. They stand in small, silent groups, holding these strange offerings, looking at each other for a sign, for permission, For courage. The entire female population of the camp is locked in a state of suspended animation, a tableau of hunger, fear, and profound suspicion. An order, rough and impatient, echoes across the mud, spoken by the American sergeant and repeated by the camp leader. Essen. Eat. Not a request. A command. The moment of decision has been forced upon them. The command hangs in the damp air, heavy and absolute. For a long moment, nobody moves. The standoff continues, a silent battle of wills between the guards' impatience and the prisoners' deep-seated terror. A few of the American soldiers start to laugh, a low, rumbling sound. They see a bunch of stubborn krauts refusing a free meal. They don't see the years of indoctrination, the gnawing fear of the unknown, the crippling psychological weight of total defeat. They see only defiance. The sergeant takes a menacing step forward, his hand dropping to the butt of the Colt M1911 pistol on his hip. The gesture is subtle, but its message is unmistakable. This is not a choice. It is Lottie, the 17-year-old, who breaks the spell. Her hunger is a wild animal, more powerful than her fear. Her face is streaked with tears, but her eyes are desperate. With a small, choked sob, she lifts the hot dog to her mouth. Her movements are jerky, like a frightened marionette. She closes her eyes tightly, as if bracing for a blow, and takes a small, hesitant bite. A collective gasp, barely audible, ripples through the women. They watch her, their own strange meals held forgotten in their hands. They are waiting for her to scream, to clutch her stomach, to fall to the muddy ground. But she does nothing. She just stands there, chewing. Her jaw works slowly, methodically. A look of profound confusion crosses her face. Her eyes, still squeezed shut, flutter open. They are wide with a dawning, uncomprehending amazement. She looks down at the bite mark in the soft bread. Then she takes another bite, a much larger one this time, with a desperate, almost savage urgency. She chews again, faster now, a small sound of pure animal relief escaping her lips. She has not been poisoned. She has been fed. Anneliese watches Lottie, her own fear beginning to recede, replaced by a desperate, gnawing curiosity. She looks at the object in her own hands. The garish yellow mustard. The unnaturally pink sausage. The cloud-like bread. She looks over at Clara, who is staring at Lottie with an expression of utter disbelief, her cynical armor showing its first crack. Anneliese makes a decision. She cannot bear the waiting, the not knowing, any longer. She lifts the hot dog. The smell of the mustard is sharp in her nostrils. She takes a bite. The first sensation is the texture. The bun is impossibly soft, yielding with a pillowy lightness that is utterly alien. It feels decadent, ethereal. It dissolves on her tongue. Then comes the flavor. It is a cascade of sensations her palate has long forgotten. The savory, salty taste of the meat, a rich, fatty flavor that coats her entire mouth. It is processed, yes, but it is undeniably meat. And the mustard, its sharp, vinegary tang cuts through the richness, a startling counterpoint that makes the other flavors explode. It is a complex, harmonious taste that is overwhelming in its simple, direct pleasure. For years, her diet has been a monotone of bland, starchy, and often bitter sustenance. Turnips, black bread, watery soup. This is not sustenance. This is flavor. This is joy. It is a sensation so powerful, so long absent from her life, that her body does not know how to process it. She swallows. The warm mouthful travels down her throat and lands in the pit of her stomach, a small, radiating star of heat in the cold emptiness. It is real. It is good. The realization hits her with the force of a physical blow. This is not poison. This is not a trick. It is food, better than any she has tasted in 5 years. And in that moment, something inside Anneliese Schmidt, something she had thought long dead and buried under layers of hunger, fear, and grief, finally shatters. A single, hot tear escapes her eye. It traces a clean path through the grime on her cheek, a tiny, salty river cutting through a barren landscape. She is not crying from sadness, or even from relief. It is a tear of pure, undiluted shock. The world she knew, the reality she had been forced to inhabit, has just been irrevocably broken by a single bite of an American hot dog. Annalise's tear is the signal that breaks the dam. All across the compound, the same silent drama unfolds. Seeing that Lottie is alive and that Annalise has not collapsed, other women take their first tentative bites. You can see the sequence of emotions play across their faces as clearly as words on a page. The initial, fearful hesitation. The soft impact of the bread. The sudden, shocking explosion of flavor. And then, the utter emotional collapse. Clara, the defiant cynic, stands frozen for a moment longer, her hot dog held aloft like a strange scepter. She glances at Annalise, then at Lottie, who is now devouring her food with a desperate focus. With a defiant jerk of her head, Clara takes a large, angry bite, as if to prove it has no effect on her. She chews once, twice. Her aggressive posture softens. Her shoulders slump. The hard lines around her mouth tremble. She turns away from the others, but it is too late. Annalise sees her raise a hand to furiously wipe a tear from her eye. The sound of the camp changes. The tense silence is replaced by the soft sounds of eating, of chewing, and swallowing. And then, another sound begins to surface, quiet at first, then growing in volume. It is the sound of women weeping. It is not the loud, theatrical wailing of acute grief, but a deeper, more painful sound. It is a quiet, gut-wrenching sobbing that comes from a place beyond mere sadness. Women lean against each other for support, their bodies shaking. Some slide to their knees in the mud, cradling the last bites of their food as if it were a holy relic, their tears falling onto the paper plates. They are crying for everything all at once. For the hunger that has been their constant companion. For the years of deprivation. For the homes and families they have lost. They cry for the lie they have been living. This simple, mass-produced meal obliterates years of carefully constructed propaganda. The enemy, the soulless, decadent American, is not a monster. He is a boy with freckles who gives you food that tastes like a forgotten dream. The hot dog is more than just nourishment, it is an emissary from a world of impossible abundance. A world where so much food exists that it can be given away, on paper plates, to a defeated enemy. This casual generosity is more devastating than a bombing raid. It speaks of a power so vast, so unshakable, that it does not need to be cruel. It can afford to be kind. And this kindness is, in its own way, a final, crushing confirmation of their defeat. The American GIs watch the scene unfold with a mixture of bewilderment and unease. They had expected quiet gratitude, perhaps. They were not prepared for this wave of raw, inexplicable sorrow. What the hell's wrong with them, one private asks, leaning on his rifle. It's just a damn hot dog. Corporal Miller says nothing. He watches Annalise. She has finished her food now and is trying to stifle her sobs, her hands covering her face. He doesn't understand the geopolitics, the ideology, the deep well of German history from which the sorrow is drawn. But he is a 19-year-old from a farm in Ohio, and he understands a fundamental human truth. He is looking at a girl who was starving, and now she is not. He sees not an enemy combatant, not a Nachrichtenhelferin of the Luftwaffe, but a young woman, not much younger than his own sister, weeping because a simple act of kindness has shattered her world. The war, for him, had been about maps and objectives, about taking the next town, the next bridge. Here in the mud, surrounded by the quiet grief of former enemies, the war becomes something else entirely. It becomes human. For a brief, unforgettable moment, the vast, impersonal machinery of history grinds to a halt, and all that is left is the taste of food, the warmth of a full stomach, and the salt of inexplicable tears.